Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are here for the next episode of our big WrestleMania project. Of course, in this project, we are going through every single WrestleMania 1 through 41 and leading up to WrestleMania 42. Just like our pay per view reaction videos, we're simply going through, stating our rating and our opinion on each match, and then getting an overall rating for each event. So, without further ado, let's kickstart this episode. And of course, this episode is about WrestleMania 4, which took place on Sunday, March 27th, 1988, at the Trump Plaza, technically Boardwalk Hall, in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And the announced attendance for this was 19,199, so a fraction of the 90,000 announced last year in Michigan. The tagline for this WrestleMania was "What the world is watching." So yeah, those are the quick details. This WrestleMania is largely taken up by a 14-man tournament to determine that new heavyweight championship because Andre had recently won the title under controversial events and then sold the title to Ted DiBiase, which was then overturned by the WWE president, and thus the tournament ensued. But yeah, WrestleMania 4 features a bunch of favorites that we've kind of developed a liking for over the last three. And we also get a few first time appearances by some new faces, such as Bam Bam Bigelow, Demolition, Ted DiBiase, and The Ultimate Warrior. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the match that kicked off WrestleMania 4, and that is the Invitational Battle Royal, 20-man Battle Royal for an absolute monumentally huge trophy. Seriously, I think that thing is north of 6 feet tall. The finish comes with Bad News Bears and Bret Hart and the Junkyard Dog. So, yeah, KP, what'd you think of this Battle Royal? For me, it was very par for the course. But did you end up liking this battle royal at all to kickstart WrestleMania 4?
I think kicking things off at WrestleMania, this was a pretty standard battle royal. I think for the majority of it, it seemed to just sort of like flow itself away for the most of it. And then obviously when it got down to the last three men, which would be Bret the Hitman Hart, Junkyard Dog, and Bad News Brown, I think it got to a stage where it's just sort of like started to actually like have a little bit of uniqueness to it, I suppose. He had a little bit of teamwork from Bret the Hitman Hart and Bad News Brown. They took out JYD, leaving just the two of them. They're in like a little bit of sort of like an alliance type thing, and they're for some reason celebrating together in the ring. Bret Hart seems to be completely happy with to just stand there and just celebrate. And yeah, then Bad News Brown, hits an enziguri to the back of the neck, and a couple of moves later sends Hart out the ring to win the battle royal. So it was yeah, a little bit of a confusing thing when it comes to what Bret Hart was thinking there as to why he thought, oh, they could both just win this battle royal. Like, it's a bit strange, but yeah, Bad News Brown getting the victory there and presented with that big trophy, like you said. But Bret Hart not too happy about the turn from Bad News. Decides to attack him from behind. And then once he's down and out the ring, he gets the trophy and absolutely smashes it to pieces, tears it apart, and launches it at ringside towards Bad News. But yeah, it was a standard battle royal for the most part, and then that little bit at the end made it a little bit unique, I suppose. I gave it a 5.5 out of 10. Nothing crazy, just somewhere in the middle, just a standard battle royal with a little bit extra.
Yeah, knowing what we know today, how many times do you think we've heard the phrase there are no friendships in battle royals and royal rumbles? So this is probably the first example of that, at least that we see on the Mania stage. But I was just shocked that Bad News Brown ended up winning and Bret Hart didn't. Bret's a very poor sport and destroying that trophy. But yeah, for me, I didn't feel like this battle royal really did anything special. And so with that, I gave it a 4 out of 10. It just didn't, like, I can't really remember much from it, and I've just watched it. So yeah, outside of the finish and the tantrum thrown afterwards, just isn't something that I think brought anything special to the table. But with that, we'll go ahead and start the next match. The first round and the first tournament match of this huge tournament that kicks off and to determine the new WWE World Heavyweight Championship. This match, of course, features Million Dollar Man Ted DiBiase with Virgil and Andre the Giant going up against Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So, for first match of the tournament, KP, what were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, kicking things off with our WWF Undisputed Championship Tournament, first round qualifier match, the very first one. Yeah, I mean, things got off to a relatively slow start. I would think it's safe to say. We got Andre the Giant on the outside there, being a little bit of a nuisance towards Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Oh, heard that a lot during the match. And basically, yeah, it was just an okay contest. There wasn't really much to sort of take from this except for the fact that Andre was outside. He grabbed the foot of Hacksaw, allowing DiBiase to get a knee in the back, and that was enough to capitalize on whilst he was distracted, and then to sort of like do like a roll up and get the victory. So yeah, it was an easy sort of few minutes here for the $1 Million Man, I suppose. It was always really a 2-on-1. Hacksaw got a little bit of offense in, fair enough. Like he tried to fight through, but when you got Andre on the outside and you got obviously your opponent in the middle of the ring as well to worry about, it's a bit of a problem. You got a numbers game to focus on, and when you got no one on your support, yeah, it's hard to really focus. To really sort of like overcome that. But yeah, $1 Million Man advances. It was okay. I don't know how long this match was. It felt like only about 4 minutes or so, really, if I had to guess. But I gave it a 4.5 out of 10 because it was really quick. Didn't really do much for me. What did you make of it, Nick?
Yeah, not too much else to add. Hacksaw Jim Duggan's kind of character is an interesting one. I think that's fair to say. But yeah, Ted DiBiase getting the win here with a very big assist owed to Andre, and that's very much a theme we see throughout the night. And interesting as well because the announce team kind of hit on that hard was if they both end up winning their matches, Ted DiBiase and Andre could end up facing each other, and so that's interesting to see if they were still going to help each other as much as they should. But yeah, not too much else coming from this one. I obviously was very familiar with Ted DiBiase as a manager, but didn't realize that he was as successful as a wrestler. So that was a bit of a shock to me. Obviously, I hadn't watched too much from this era with him, but yeah, decent enough match. Like you said, pretty short and nothing really special. I gave this one a 4 out of 10. Getting on to the next match, which is another round one match of this tournament and features John Muraco with Billy Graham going against Dino Bravo with Frenchie Martin. KP, what'd you think of this match? Any better than the first?
So the second first round match of this WWF Undisputed Championship tournament, Dino against Don Muraco was a little better than the previous match, in my opinion. It wasn't like leaps and bounds ahead, but it was a bit of an improvement. Yeah, you got towards the end, you got Dino pulling the referee into the path of Muraco, which actually sends the referee crashing down, onto the canvas. Dino then hits his side slam, which he thinks is going to be the job done once the referee gets back up. He does get back up in the end, and he goes to count to 3, but instead of doing it on the mat like you'd normally see in wrestling, he counts to 3 on Dino himself. Like he does it on his shoulder type thing. And when I was watching, I was like, what on earth is he doing? Why is he counting to 3 on the on the superstar himself? I was like, this is very strange. I don't think I've seen this before. And then once the official word came in from the referee's decision, which honestly I quite like back then, it's just like a cool like suspense thing when it gets to like these sort of endings. Yeah, they announced obviously that it was a disqualification because essentially they acknowledged that he had been pulled into the referee, and yeah, it was quite an interesting decision, turning things around, and it wasn't actually a 1-2-3 for Dino in the end, but the win goes to Don Muraco. Going by The Rock, which is quite interesting. I didn't realize that he did that, at this stage of his career. So, yeah, it was an okay match. He was fine. I gave it a 5.5 out of 10. Like I say, improvement from the first qualifying matchup, but not by an awful lot.
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely an improvement. And both of these guys, actually a pretty interesting match to to start. And I did like the finish as well. And I also agree. I like the announced finish by the ref. I think in a lot of these matches, especially this evening, that was helpful in figuring out what the hell just happened. So. But yeah, I feel like this match was going pretty well, so it's a shame it did get cut short. I also gave this one a 5.5 out of 10. So, getting on to the next match, the next round one match, we have Greg the Hammer Valentine with Jimmy Hart going up against Ricky the Dragon Steamboat with little Ricky Steamboat. I don't know if that's his actual son. I meant to go look at that. But yeah, this was a good match and definitely the best match so far of the tournament. Match was very stiff. And I don't think I mentioned it before, but Greg's the Hammer Valentine's ability to sell. It's quite amusing. It's something we've seen duplicated by many wrestlers since, but it's entertaining. Almost does get a bit old, but it's entertaining for me. KP, what'd you think of this one? And are you in agreement with me that this was the best match so far?
I am in agreement. Yeah, I think naturally these are just sort of like going up and up and up in quality bit by bit as the show's going along. Unfortunately, it doesn't really stay that way throughout the entirety of the WrestleMania. But alas, let's talk about this one as it is. Greg against Ricky. Yeah, the entrance was fascinating. Yeah, he was walking down with his son. His wife's at ringside, passes his kid over to her. At the end of his entrance, that was very unique. I don't think I've seen a wrestler walk down with their son before, or or child, whichever. But yeah, into the match itself, yeah, it was a good contest. I think compared to what we've seen up until this point, this one showed a bit more technicality to it, a little bit more back and forth. Actually, sort of like had a bit more time to play with. And there was something going on for the majority of it, which was quite nice. In terms of the finish, Ricky gets pulled off of Greg when attacking him in the corner by the referee. And then he sort of shoves the official out of frustration. He wants to continue, obviously, in the melee with him. But then he goes for his pattern of crossbody off the top, which actually gets rolled over by Greg. And I've said this before. There have been so many times this sort of finish has happened just in these WrestleManias alone. And this is another one of them. The reverse crossbody by rolling over, getting your weight on top, and then going over for the win. But this time, Greg would grab the tights as well. So, yeah, not just technical, but also a little bit dirty from Greg Valentine. So Greg advances on to the second round of the tournament, bypassing Ricky Steamboat. But yeah, it was a fun matchup, to be fair. Definitely better than the ones we've seen so far. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah, anytime we see Ricky, the match definitely goes up in terms of rating. And this was the second longest of the first round, and rightfully so. It's one of the best of the evening, in my opinion. And yeah, so the only issue I really have is Ricky losing. I was a bit surprised on that one. But Greg the Hammer Valentine, I think, is a decent wrestler in itself. I was just looking forward to having multiple Ricky matches to rate throughout the evening. But yeah, I gave this one actually an 8 out of 10. I thought this one was really good, really technical. Yeah, unfortunately, the ending coming with that small package, but regardless, a pretty decent bout. Leading on to the next match, which features Randy, the Macho Man Savage, going up against, or with Elizabeth, going up against the natural Butch Reid with Slick. KP, what'd you think of this match as well?
Yeah, unfortunately, the quality does dip down a little bit. Well, a fair bit, actually, with this next matchup. Still continuing with our first round matches here for the WWF Undisputed Championship Tournament. Randy Savage, yeah, he obviously coming off back of last year with an incredible match against Ricky Steamboat. This is obviously his first WrestleMania match since then. It was an okay contest. We get to a point where Reid goes up to the top rope. So gets distracted by Elizabeth. I think he's sort of like goating at her sort of thing, like says a few things, sort of like showing off perhaps maybe. And Elizabeth's just there, just standing there watching, just gracefully as she does, as she always is. Yeah, you've got Macho Man that comes over towards Reid and actually slams him off the top rope onto the canvas. And that allows him to have the time to go up to the top, hit his elbow drop, and then that wins the match for him. But prior to that, there wasn't really an awful lot to talk about. It was quite a short contest, really. I mean, to be fair, when you got a tournament, these matches aren't going to be very long, and I understand that. So, yeah, 16 matches in one show, where loads of those matches are part of the same tournament. It is naturally going to go by pretty quickly. You need to be swift with how things are going. But yeah, because there wasn't really much content in the majority of the matchup, I gave it a 4 out of 10. I just thought it was it was too quick, didn't offer too much, and besides the finish, there's nothing really to speak about. It was just okay. So yeah, 4 out of 10. Yeah, not sort of going down in quality from that last one.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And Butch Reed's style was very slow. And yeah, when you have a slow worker and a short match, obviously you're not going to have time to get much done. And yeah, the kind of distraction by Elizabeth, we'll call it. The announce team kind of said that was strategic, but by Randy. So interesting bout, but yeah, beautiful elbow drop to get the win. Obviously, the right person probably going through there. I gave this one a 3.5 out of 10, but let's go ahead and move on to the next match, which has one man gang with Slick once again going up against Bam Bam Bigelow with Oliver Humperdinck. And this is our first exposure to Bam Bam on the WrestleMania stage. For me, this was by far the worst match, not only of the tournament, but of the night. KP, would you agree?
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. Wow, this was shocking. It was appalling. I don't really know what really to say about this. It's still a first round tournament qualifying match, so there's that. Bam Bam came out pretty hot at the start, not gonna lie. He was showing some athleticism, some agility, some quickness to him. But then once he burned himself out at the very beginning, it just went extremely slow and fizzled out, just with nothing left, not even an ember remaining in the match. Bam Bam's on the apron. Oh my god, I got to talk about this finish, right? Bam Bam and One Man Gang, they're on the outside, and One Man Gang gets back in. Bam Bam is on the apron. He's literally trying to get into the ring, but because One Man Gang is also is also right next to him. He's like he's in the ring, but he's opposite him, so he's not allowing Bam Bam to get back in the ring. The referee's counting. He is still counting at this point, even though Bam Bam is physically trying to get back into the ring from the apron, and he counts him out. That is the finish. This is one of the worst finishes I think I've ever seen in wrestling. It is so bad. Like, there's no logic to it. Like, you're really going to just count someone out because the opponent's just not letting you get back in the ring, even though you're physically on the apron, showing the fact that you're trying to get back. It was so shockingly bad. I gave it a 2 out of 10. Prior to that, absolutely, like, ridiculous ending, except the first, 30 seconds where Bam Bam looked kind of fun at the start. There was nothing. It was so slow, so boring, and yeah, wow, shocker. Absolutely shocking.
Yeah, just looking at the participants involved, I had a feeling I wasn't going to be a big fan. Obviously, that was validated. And then, yeah, the finish was, for lack of a better word, shit. I didn't, yeah, we know not to put logic with wrestling a lot of times, but at least make it past the eye test. Trying to get back in the ring, one of the more questionable decisions amongst the many throughout the night. But yeah, One Man Gang getting the win here because Bam Bam Bigelow was tossed over the ropes with the help of Slick, and then preventing him from getting back into the ring. Apparently, that allows him to get the win. So yeah, interesting decision. I also give this one a 2 out of 10. So lovely stuff. Let's swiftly move on to the next match, and the last first round match. And picking back up in quality, we see the WrestleMania debut of Ravishing Rick Rude with Bobby the Brain Heenan. He was working a ton tonight, going up against Jake the Snake Roberts. So this is the last of the round one tournament, and we see this one gets a ton of time. KP, what'd you think of this one? And of course, very topical, the result of this one.
Okay, so not sure if this is going to be controversial or not, but let's put it out there. Yeah, the matchup of Rick Rude and Jake the Snake Roberts, I thought at the start probably would have been a pretty good contest. Like, I couldn't see any reason why it wouldn't be. you're going through the matchup, and it's petering along, and it starts off kind of good, like they're squaring up to each other, and it's got like a nice pace to it, and then it just like slowly sort of like just fizzles out a little bit, and then it just stagnates for a good like I want to say about 8, 9, 10 minutes maybe at most, and it gets to a point where I'm like, there are time limits to this tournament, right? Aren't there? And then I was like, oh, hold on a minute. I think I know what they're going to be doing here. And it was my fear basically coming to life. And it got to a point where the 15 minutes time limit elapsed. And both men were, ruled as counted out. The time's elapsed, is over, job done. So neither man advances in the tournament. So it's basically a tie. It finishes in a tie after the 15 minutes went by with no winner. As the 15-minute is literally hitting, it gets to a point where Rick has a dirty cover on Jake, and ultimately, very cliche finish. The timer goes out as the cover is on. So it's not like anybody really advanced here. No one really got anything from it. The match was quite long. Fair enough. 15 minutes is a good amount of time. Like modern day, that'd be great. Like that's a great amount of time to have in a match. You can get loads of stuff in, but there just wasn't really that much. Sure, it was a decently length contest, but did it have a lot of quality? Did it really have anything to really speak about? I don't really think it did. Like, there was nothing really groundbreaking from this, or anything really to gloss over. It was just two guys, and they were just essentially just filling time. That's what it felt like to me, anyway. I'd love to hear what you think about it, but it felt like they were really filling those 15 minutes with just stuff here and there, just casual things. And I don't know if I heard this right. I might have done, but I'm pretty sure at one point I heard fans chanting "boring" in the arena. I don't know. Maybe that was the case. Maybe it wasn't. But regardless of the fact, it wasn't a great matchup. I gave it a 5 out of 10. Yeah, they had time, but it wasn't filled with much quality.
I too did hear the boring chants, so I'm surprised they didn't edit that out. But yeah, so essentially, we were basically in agreement here. You could tell. Unfortunately, I on my little guide here, I have a match guide where I keep all my notes on, and unfortunately, I did have a time listed for each match, just so I know kind of how much time to allocate to watch the entire thing. And and about halfway through, maybe a quarter, 3/4, I saw the time next to the match, and I realized this was felt like it was dragging a bit. And then I saw that clean 15 minutes, and I was like, oh gosh, because the commentary team did mention that the first round were and basically talked about all the time limits. But yeah, with this one going 15 minutes, it felt like they had about 8.5 minutes of planned things to do. And then they ran out of time. And so then they dropped a bunch of holds. And basically, what we consider now, what usually happens during those commercial breaks. I think essentially that's what almost at least probably a third of the match ended up being. So yeah, you hit it on the head. Basically, I saw the same thing. This match was decent, but then yeah, they definitely ran out of things to do, and then they had a 15-minute time limit to reach. So yeah, because you could see the burst of offense from both guys when they needed to, but then the rest of them just being basically wasting time. So yeah, this was a bit controversial. I gave this one a 6 out of 10 because there were good parts of it, but then obviously because of the finish and the dragging part of it, gave that dropped it a bit. I think this one had potential though, but yeah. And unfortunately, that wraps up the first round of the tournament. Lots of not so good ones and a couple of good ones. So let's swiftly move on to the next match, which has the Ultimate Warrior making his WrestleMania debut, going up against Hercules Hernandez. I think they just called him Hercules this year, with Bobby the Brain Heenan getting some more work in. Two absolute powerhouses in this one. And for me, Hernandez has showed promise in previous years, but always seems to be put in meaningless matches. So, KP, is this another meaningless match, or did you enjoy this one?
So from what I gather on commentary, the feud between these two men was pretty intense. That neither man liked each other whatsoever. They absolutely hated the guts out of one another. So as it was going along, I was thinking, this could be a this could be a pretty fun contest. Really, they're gonna go hell to leather in this one. And I guess for some parts they sort of did build up to that moniker, but I don't think for the majority it really felt like that. towards the end of the contest, you've got Hercules going for a full Nelson. Ultimate Warrior uses the corner to sort of propel both men backwards. I think sometimes in modern day wrestling, you'd actually see the person propelling themselves, float over and sort of like land so that it's just the person who put the original hold down on the canvas with the shoulders down. But this time, both superstars result on the mat with their shoulders down, each of them. And the referee goes to counts to 2. As he is about to count to 3, Ultimate Warrior gets his shoulder up, but Hernandez's shoulders are both still down, so the referee still counts to 3. When I was watching the matchup, I didn't see the fact that Hercules' shoulders were still down, so I was like, okay, well, that was a kick out, so what's going on here then? Because I thought it was just the one cover. I didn't notice that both were down. And then obviously I watched it back, as soon as it didn't make sense to me. I was like, oh, okay, all 4 shoulders were down. I didn't realize that. So yeah, maybe a tad confusing just for myself there, but that's obviously not something I'm taking into consideration there. But with the kind of unique finish, I didn't mind that so much. It was interesting for sure. But then post match, you've got a little bit more of that, he is sort of build going into this, because Hercules attempts to wrap a chain around Warrior's neck, and he does manage to get his hands in the way and powers through, gets out of the attempted chain attack, and then actually starts just maniacally swinging the chain around in the ring, much like we see from Seth Rollins nowadays when he wins a WWE Championship or whatnot. So yeah, it was a pretty hectic end to the contest, I suppose, there with that chain. But yeah, it was okay. The match was fine. I gave it a 5 out of 10. Nothing groundbreaking this one, but you could see some intensity at the start and at the very end, post match. So it's not too bad, and a little bit of a unique finish.
Well, we're on the same page, both on the rating, which I also gave a 5, and the finish, because I was confused as well. I didn't even see Warriors' shoulders on the mat, so I kind of thought, yeah. Anyways, it's one that I very much appreciated the explanation by the commentary team, because on its face it looked like Warrior or that. Hercules was the one that was pinned, but regardless, it was a different finish. So yeah, we'll give him props for that. But yeah, as far as the animosity, it was definitely seen there. Just felt like with that animosity, maybe it should have lasted 4 more minutes. But clearly, this was just this feud was being pushed along. Definitely weren't finished. So the commentary team hit on that as well. And then afterwards, kind of Ultimate Warrior kind of holding his own when Hercules tried to take him down. So yeah, I gave this one a 5 out of 10 as well. And this was our break from the tournament. Okay, so very short lived. But then we move on to the second round match, which is a WrestleMania 3 main event rematch. Has Hulk Hogan going up against Andre the Giant, with once again Bobby the Brain Heenan and $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase and Virgil. So tons of assistance on this one. And like I said, second round match, but Andre and Hulk's first contest of the evening, because they both had a bye. KP, what'd you think of the second round match?
We're starting off slow. I wasn't a massive fan of Hulk and Andre in the main event the previous year, to be honest with you. This was arguably worse than that match as well. But yeah, this ended in a double disqualification due to the fact that both Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant used the steel chair on each other. I get what they're doing. I understand why they've gone down this route. But the fact that they literally had, the chair being used from Andre, the referee saw it clear as day, didn't disqualify him there and then Hogan, uses it on Andre, and then suddenly the referee just calls the match off. I immediately thought the ref's screwing Hogan here. Like, he's going to call Andre as the winner. And then, like, a good couple of minutes later, we do eventually get a decision. I think it might even come through the commentary team. I don't know if I'm remembering that right. But either way, we do get an official, decision eventually. And it is that both men were disqualified. So they literally waited for Hogan to respond with the chair, and then DQ'd both men. So, yeah, very interesting. It's one of those things, I suppose, really. But Yeah, this match was just okay. It was slow, it was sluggish, like their match was the previous year, to be honest. Except there was no iconic slam during the contest, except this time it came afterwards. Just Hogan just showing off and just hitting another slam on Andre the Giant just to get a last little thing. As you know, the I guess the match is sort of like petering out. Virgil's heading up the ramp, and Hogan does catch up with him. Does hit a suplex and takes him out on the ramp, which probably proves dividends later on throughout the night. But yeah, he he takes out Virgil. Andre's obviously got stuff going on now with Hogan, so yeah, I guess you could say that this is more about foreshadowing things that were still to come. I think it's fair to say. I gave it a 4 out of 10.
Yeah, another match rating 4 out of 10 for me as well. Yeah, it's hard not to compare it to the WrestleMania 3 main event, which neither of us rated super highly. But yeah, the controversial finish, you can obviously see where they're going with it. But the fact that they seem to kind of just pick and choose when they decide to disqualify someone and yeah, had to wait for the ref decision. So in theory, the story that they had planned was good. In execution, not so good. So yeah, by default, I gave last year's a 5. So I can't give this one higher than that because it was worse. And obviously, the finish wasn't as good either. So I gave this one a 4 out of 10 because of that. And then after the match, Hulk, obviously, as you mentioned, gets the slam, but then gets 5 minutes to celebrate. What is he celebrating? I'm not really sure, but because he's not getting his title back, and alas, we have our first WrestleMania main event without Hulk, or do we? More on that later. Kicking off to the next second round match, which has Million Dollar Man Ted DiBiase going up against Don Muraco, The Rock Don Muraco. That one always throws me off hearing that, with superstar Billy Graham. KP, what'd you think of our second round match?
Very much like the first round, the second round match was a little improvement on the first. Again, not by an awful lot, but still by a little bit at least. Yeah, Don Morocco and Million Dollar Man. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much to say about this one. It was a decent back and forth. I think both men were able to sort of like just do their thing for the most part of it. It was a kind of engaging matchup. We had a couple of things to really focus on here. Managers at ringside. Things happening within the ring as well. There was a couple of dynamics that were quite unique, and just watching things progress as it went on quite steadily. Towards the end, got to a point where DiBiase, he hits Don Muraco with a lovely flapjack. That just sends him crashing onto the ropes. I'm not sure if it was maybe his neck that went first on the ropes. Maybe that was why this particular move got the victory in the end, and not the $1 million dream. Yeah, the landing looked pretty nasty. So it was quite a heavy contact on those ropes. So I think either Don Muraco sold it really, really well, or they were playing on the fact that it was the neck that sort of like got caught on those ropes. But yeah, nice finish, to be fair. Quite liked it. DiBiase advances on to the next round. And yeah, just a solid way to end it for sure for me. But I gave it a 5.5 out of 10. Like I said, it was better than the second round match. But I wouldn't say it was like anything crazy good or anything. But it was it was just a nice matchup just to sort of like keep things steadily moving on.
Are you going to steal my ratings all night, KP? This one also got a 5.5 from me. And yeah, the finish was unique. Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be the end, but it was. But it was unique, so I liked that. And yeah, I thought Don Morocco would advance, so I kind of expected him to. He's been pretty impressive and consistent for me at least through the first few manias. But yeah, nonetheless, $1 Million Man getting the win here and a decent bout. Like I said, gave that one a 5.5 out of 10. Moving on to the next second round match, which has Randy Macho Man Savage with Elizabeth. And if you notice, both of their outfits change. Randy and Elizabeth change over every single match. So a nice little touch there. And then going up against Greg the Hammer Valentine with Jimmy Hart. KP, what'd you think of this second round match here?
Very much like the previous match. It was fine. It was decent enough, to be fair. Did what it needed to do. Macho Man, getting the victory in the end in this one. Greg the Hammer sets up for the figure 4, which could be seen on the bottom right image there on the screen. And Savage just really nicely counters it into a small package and just gets the win. Nice and simple, effective, gets the job done. And it's at a point where Greg was looking for obviously his patented move. So yeah, I think it's just a sensible way to finish things off here. But a decent enough matchup. Don't really have an awful lot to say. It was a good contest between both men, and it was very, very similar to that of the previous match in terms of just like my general thoughts and the quality in the ring. So I gave it the same rating. I gave it a 5.5 out of 10 as well. Yeah, I think it was just one of those matches that it just allowed things to progress in the tournament, and that's really all it was really needed for. But yeah, neither man really was bad in this contest, but neither was like exceptional or anything. It was just a fine contest.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. And we did break up our rating match here. I gave this one a 6 out of 10. But yeah, with that small package roll up, yeah, we've seen a lot of those throughout the first few manias and this evening. And uh two pretty consistent talents here, and Greg the Hammer Valentine, and of course Randy Savage. So yeah, I thought it was a decent enough bout. I thought actually a pretty good match. I think if you give this one a few more minutes, it could have been great, but decent enough for what it was. And obviously a lot of these we have a ton of matches, so obviously every match can't go on super long. But if I'm Greg the Hammer Valentine, I'm pretty upset because my first two matches for this tournament was Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Randy Macho Man Savage. So talk about a bad draw. But yeah, definitely one of the better of the second round. And with that, we move on to the next match, which is another break from the tournament as we are done with the second round. This particular match has Honky Tonk Man with Jimmy Hart once again and Peggy Sue for the IC Championship. And the challenger is Brutus the Barber Beefcake. A very eye-opening bit for this match. We didn't have a ton of these really out there for WrestleMania 4, but Peggy Sue, Honky Tonk's on-screen girlfriend here, was none other than Sensational Sherry, the current women's champion. And this is the only appearance of anything to do with the women's division for the entire Mania. And commentary team, very much. This is a different person. This is not her. This is Peggy Sue. Yeah, that was the only mention of the women's talent throughout WrestleMania 4. But KP, what'd you think of this IC title defense from Honky Tonk Man?
Yeah, a break from the tournament, so something a little bit different to like sink our teeth into here. Yeah, I mean this was an okay match, to be honest with you as well. I know I'd say this about a lot of the contests here on this show, but yeah, did not try to sound too repetitive here. But it was nice to see a championship on the line, something a little different. Have a break from the tournament, just to get a little bit fresh for those later rounds still yet to come. Let's talk about the match, how it went down, specifically towards the end. Jimmy Hart, he's attacking the referee, which causes a disqualification after Brutus Beefcake locks in the sleeper hold on Honky. The referee gets taken out. Honky fades out, and that makes Brutus think that he's won. He realizes what's happened eventually, and he goes for his bag of cutters. Ends up being a little bit cat and mouse with him and Jimmy Hart, because Jimmy Hart grabs the bag instead. It leads under the ring. Brutus goes to pull him back out, which he does. So ends up with a pair of scissors, which is something. And yeah, he ends up pinning Hart down on the steel steps on the outside, and ends up cutting bits of his hair off. So yeah, the barber, making sure his gimmick's still standing up here. And yeah, he gives Jimmy Hart a little bit of a haircut post match, just something to remember the contest by, I suppose. Honky Tonk keeps his title, ends up still being the Intercontinental champion, but at least Brutus does have something to take away from it in the end, I guess. But yeah, it was Peggy Sue coming in clutch here in this one, really waking up Honky Tonk Man, and they do escape, leaving Jimmy Hart in the clutches there. But yeah, it was an okay match. It was fine. It was good. The finish was a little bit meh for me personally. I gave it a 5.5 out of 10. Again, this is the last of my 5.5s, so no more in a row. Not sure if there's any later on, but right now in this little bit, then that's the last of these in a row. So yeah, we'll obviously go into some different ratings going from here. But yeah, not a bad match. It was okay. It was fine, and nice to have a little bit of a break.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly basically my description as well. Not a bad match, but not a good one either. Brutus earning his nickname as, as you very well alluded to. But as we know today, you can't win a title off of DQ, and a Honky Tonk Man retaining here. Apparently, a bunch of politics around this whole event. Honky Tonk was basically refused to give up his IC title. So a bit of backstage politicking. A little more on that later, but. Yeah, unfortunately, this one, the ending with Jimmy Hart's megaphone yet getting causing another finish. We've seen a ton of that, and interesting bit from that. The ref from that spot was legitimately knocked out. So I think the very much camera panning over to Brutus, providing the haircut to Jimmy Hart. I wonder if that spot was planned, or at least it was supposed to go on as long as it did. Obviously, they had the stuff underneath the ring, but I find myself wondering if that was actually the planned spot, because the ref was knocked out cold from that megaphone shot. So interesting. I think the aftermath and the actual fun facts about this match were definitely more memorable than the actual match itself. So I gave this one a 4.5 out of 10. Moving on to the next match, we have the Islanders and Bobby the Brain Heenan once again going up against the British Bulldogs and Koko B.Ware, of course, accompanied by Matilda the Bulldog. So surprisingly, this is the first tag match of WrestleMania after the formula we very much have seen over the last couple years, where the more tag matches, the better. Very much felt like the way to go. But obviously, probably not a ton of time this year due to the tournament taking up a vast majority of that. KP, what did you think of our first tag match of the evening? And what did you think of Bobby the Brain Heenan's outfit?
Yeah, his outfit was certainly something, that's for sure, right? Not your standard ring apparel, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know what to make of Heenan in the contest. He got involved a little bit, to be fair. He got tagged in a few times, and he was in there for the finish as well. So he didn't sort of like shy away too much. But the Islanders, doing a lot of the work, the heavy lifting in the early stages, Haku and Tama. Yeah, they they sort of like steered the ship in the beginning, and then allowed Heenan to come in bit parts when it was kind of a little bit more safe. And I guess that's probably the sensible idea here, really. Yeah, as the match went down, it gets to a point where Haku and Tama are brawling a little with the Bulldogs, whilst every man is in the ring. They slam Koko onto the mat before lifting Heenan up together. And this is whilst the referee's sort of like distracted. He doesn't really see any of this because he's dealing with the Bulldogs. And yeah, they slam Heenan down onto Koko, and that allows Heenan to eventually get the victory once the referee realizes what's happening. Quick count to 3, and yeah, that's it there and done. Post matchup, a little bit of a weird segment. Matilda, the Bulldog on the outside, she sort of like helps out chase Heenan up the ramp. Post match, there's a little bit where they just sort of like actually get right up to him, and he's like knocked down, and Matilda's like right up in his grill. It's it's a bit of a odd post match segment, I suppose, but. Yeah, in terms of the tag matches, like you said, they're normally pretty good at WrestleMania. This one, not so much, to be honest with you. I gave it a 5 out of 10. Like I said, it was just a bit bang average and not really anything special in this one, unfortunately.
Yeah, considering the talent, you would think this one would be a bit better, but yeah, maybe some time restrictions put on this one, but Bobby's outfit completely ridiculous. But I guess coming into play there, with the post match stuff, so for whatever that's worth. But yeah, I thought the match was decent enough, obviously involving some decent talent, but gave this one a 5.5 out of 10. Nothing super memorable outside of that crazy outfit. Moving on to the next match, we have the only round 3 match because of things that we'll get into just a bit. But Randy the Macho Man Savage with Elizabeth going up against One Man Gang with Slickster. Yeah, only round 3 match because Hulk and Andre both DQ'd. So Ted DiBiase got his bye. So that is why we only have the 1/3 round match. And speaking of bye, that was very much the story for this match. One Man Gang got a bye because of the other side of that bracket, Rude and Roberts, but then in a draw, that would give him the advantage, or so commentary team thought. That he potentially could overcome Savage. So KP, what do you think of this, our one and only 3rd round match of this tournament?
One Man Gang continues to stink up WrestleMania. That's what I think of it. This was another terrible match with him in. It was better than the earlier one with Bam Bam Bigelow. But I mean, when you've got the Macho Man in the ring with you, come on, you got to at least have some sort of quality in there, right? And yeah, I felt kind of bad for Macho Man because he couldn't really do an awful lot on this one to make it look good. I mean, look at the photos. These are literally the best photos that are online available for me to find for this slide. They're not great, and there's a good reason for that because the match didn't have an awful lot going for it. One man gang attempts to use the Slicks as cane whilst the referee was dealing with Elizabeth. But the referee turns around and just sees one man gang using the cane, so disqualifies him. Like, it couldn't have been more obvious. Like, I don't understand what they were trying to do with the finish, whether it was literally meant to be that, in the face of the referee, and like they weren't trying to hide it whatsoever. Yeah, another really bad finish to a matchup here at a WrestleMania 4. But yeah, I feel bad for Savage because obviously, this is third match of the night. This is by far his worst match. And yeah, it was pretty terrible, to be honest. There was nothing really else to say except for the weird finish and just a really slow, sluggish, kind of awkward path to get to that little bit. I gave it a 3.5 out of 10. It was just quite bad.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I think this was the best way to get Randy through in a DQ finish, not expend too much more energy. But yeah, one man gang, never heard of him before. I'm not sure if I ever hear of him after this either. So maybe there's a reason for that based on the performances we've seen throughout the night. But yeah, Randy getting the win here by the DQ. For whatever reason, they just didn't care. They thought they'd tried anyways. Gave this one a 3 out of 10. Moving on to the next match, which features our second and final tag team match, which has Demolition with Mr. Fuji and Eye Paint, a sight to see, going up against Strike Force, which consists of Tito Santana and Ricky Martel. Yeah, KP, what'd you think of this one? This was obviously for those tag team championships. And yeah, what'd you think of the finish and the Mr. Fuji in the paint? I thought that was a fun little change and attire for him.
Yeah, so I think with this tag team match, it's one of those contests where it is a good matchup and it's enjoyable to watch. It involves Tito Santana, Mr. Consistent. I think in the early stages of WrestleMania as a whole, always in these matches that are consistently kind of good, but not like bad or anything, but just a nice solid performance again as usual. We've got, just speaking about how the match went down. Tito Santana gets knocks down Mr. Fuji from the apron. He's attempting to interfere at the time, but obviously Santana catches him out. But whilst doing this, Mr. Fuji's cane goes flying towards the left-hand side of the ring as we're watching, and it goes towards Axe. Axe gets into the ring, smashes against the back of Martel, and whilst the referee is distracted, this is all happening, Axe escapes the ring, so fleeing the scene of the crime right there and then. Tito doesn't notice what's happening here. He's literally still focused on Mr. Fuji. He has no idea what's going on, in his blind spot. And yeah, then the referee notices the cover, goes down for the count. 1, 2, 3. We have new tag team champions crowned. Demolition win the tag team gold. If only Tito had turned around, he was literally in the ring, just still focused and completely 100% locked in on Mr. Fuji. Yeah, he could have probably broken it up in like a second flat. So yeah, if only what could have been, I suppose, here for Strikeforce. But yeah, not a bad match. I thought it was quite fun for the most part. Flowed pretty well together. The tag team, cohesion was pretty good as well. So yeah, no real complaints in this one. Thought it was decent and a good tag team match at WrestleMania. I gave it a 6 out of 10. What'd you make of it, Nick?
So yeah, I'm familiar with Demolition and in particular their historic reign, but I didn't think it came this early. So I was a bit shocked to see Strikeforce, as you kind of mentioned, considering the team that they are, very consistent and were super over as well. I didn't think Strikeforce were going to lose here, so that was a shock to me. And yet again, another cane, a weapon, coming in to decide the finish. We see a ton of that tonight. Very much a fan of for the time being, but not I am, but WWE was at the time a very big fan of those finishes. But yeah, I thought the match was pretty well, and I think it was just a good tag match, like you said, and this kind of starting the beginning of that 478-day historic reign by Demolition. But with that, let's move on to the main event. And we finally reached the finals of this championship tournament for that vacant World Heavyweight Championship. And this features Randy Macho Man Savage with Elizabeth, and someone else joins him. And he's going up against the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, with Virgil and Andre the Giant. So as we saw earlier in the night, Andre the Giant definitely playing a factor here. And yeah, that's quickly realized that Randy's going to have to do something else to overcome the odds here. He ends up asking Elizabeth for assistance. She runs to the back and she comes back to the ring with Hulk. He just couldn't keep himself away from that main event picture. But Hulk ends up very much being the equalizer here and helps with the match itself. KP, what did you think of the finish here of the tournament? Definitely one of the better matches in my opinion. And what did you think of the ending? And of course, your overall rating for this one.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, hey, look, Macho Man's been involved in an awful lot tonight. I mean, DiBiase has been involved in a fair bit himself as well. But Macho Man having to go 4 matches, and to be fair, this is probably match of the night in my opinion. And yeah, best performance from both men here. Really, there was a whole lot going on in this one, like you've already covered, with the whole Elizabeth going off to get Hogan, come back down, the equalizer. Hogan taking a seat at ringside, and yeah, that chair coming in clutch. As we saw earlier on in the show with Hulk and Andre in that particular contest. This time we've got Hulk using it on the back of $1 Million Man. So yeah, the referee was distracted, didn't see any of this happening because he's dealing with Andre the Giant. And yeah, gets to a point where Hogan's able to just slam into the back of $1 Million Man. And that allows Macho Man to go up to the top rope and to hit that elbow drop to win the WWE Undisputed Championship. WWF Undisputed Championship. So yeah, what a matchup it was in the end, really. Good main event. It felt like that main event feel. The pop for Macho when he won the title as well was amazing. It was a really loud pop. The crowd were going crazy. And you could see them sort of like knowing it was going to be the end as well. They were already up on their feet as the 1, 2, 3 was happening. Yeah, it was a nice feel. Really good pop from the crowd there in attendance. And yeah, I mean, it had an awful lot going on. There was the storytelling obviously throughout the course of the night with Hogan and Andre, and obviously that spiraling into this one. Equalizing Andre's interference on the outside because he was being a menace to Andre. To Randy Savage, consistently sort of like grabbing his foot, stopping him from really getting any momentum. And yeah, it had a really good flow to the matchup. To be fair, really enjoyed this main event. Probably my favorite match of the night. Like I said, I gave it a 7 out of 10. Just overall pretty solid main event matchup.
Yeah, the way Andre was just so effortlessly taking out his legs, like it was so smooth. But then yeah, like you mentioned, Hulk getting that chair shot, and after this, Randy hitting that beautiful elbow drop for the win. This was the first time we got a new champion, WWF championship, I guess per se. I think I mentioned the heavyweight champion. The title changes names so many times; it's hard to keep track. But yeah, I thought this was a great ending to the tournament. Which otherwise featured a lot of questionable finishes. Randy and Elizabeth, a great moment for them. Obviously, they deserved it. They put in the work tonight, and yeah, like I said, definitely the best part of the tournament. Obviously, there were some other matches that were decent and good, but a lot of them were not. So, a nice payoff to an otherwise shaky tournament. I think that's fair to say. Interesting bit about this one. The original plan was for DiBiase to win the tournament, but as mentioned earlier, Honky Tonk refused to drop the IC title to Randy in February, and WWE at the time just didn't have any other way to enforce that. So kind of weird, but so essentially they reconfigured the tournament here to have Savage beat DiBiase to win. And this way they had at least one babyface champion because all the other ones were heels at the time. So yeah, this apparently caused a lot of heat between Honky and DiBiase over the years. I'm not sure if that's been settled, but regardless, the $1 Million belt was originally created as a consolation prize, essentially for DiBiase, as he wasn't able to win this. So, was that worth it? I guess we'll have to. I don't know for sure, but an interesting bit there. But yeah, overall, this was a very long card, and this was our WrestleMania 4 review. Like I said, 16 matches, 12 of them being the tournament for that vacant title. Essentially, this was a King of the Ring tournament, and all in the same night, which we've seen them do that as well in the past. But this, I think, was their first stab at it. But yeah, so I understand why a lot of these matches couldn't have been long, thought out ones, but I think some of them could have been a bit better. KP, what'd you think of WrestleMania 4 as a whole, and of course, give us your rating for it?
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about the consistency of these WrestleManias, up until this point, and a lot of them do include a lot of matches and not a lot of quality for the majority. And I think this one really sort of like nailed down on that description once again, unfortunately. 16 matches, and very, very few of them had had a rating of 6 and above for me personally. So yeah, it's quite telling, really. Obviously a massive tournament, you got no choice. You gotta just stack the deck and just go with the flow. You can't really give them a lot of time with each matchup, and that's just how things go when it comes to that situation. But yeah, lack of quality throughout. Didn't really like the finishes for the most of the part, and yeah, some very controversial stuff going on. But there were some good moments. There were a couple of decent matches, and especially the main event, which is a really good feel moment for Randy and everybody watching on as well. So yeah, that was probably a very good way to end the show. So at least the best match was at the end, which is something. But yeah, I gave it a 5 out of 10. I think it's just a definition of an average show. That was my overall sort of like average rating between all my match overalls put together. So yeah, just a dead on 5 out of 10, nice and easy for me. But yeah, just the definition of mediocre, I suppose.
100% fair, and kind of similar to what you said. Out of the 12 matches, the tournament matches, four of them got a 6 or higher from me. So, yeah, that's just kind of most of them were much lower. So, outside of that, a pretty non eventful battle royal and a couple of tag matches, an IC title match that also had a questionable finish. And like we said, no women's title match. She was being disguised as a love interest for Honky Tonk. So, but a great ending. Definitely the highlight of the evening. Of course, with Hogan, had to be in there, couldn't be left out. But a great win for an exhausted Randy Savage to win that vacant title. So overall, I gave WrestleMania 4 a 5.2 out of 10, which it seems high considering all the matches we got that weren't ideal. But regardless, so that is WrestleMania 4 in the books. And this has been our latest WrestleMania review. With that, we will be back shortly with our WrestleMania 5, hoping for a little more substance. We'll definitely take some quality over quantity, I think, after this one. That's probably our biggest takeaway. But with that, this has been another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. If you like what we're putting out here, please let us know in the comments below. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next one. And until next time, take care.